I start with a question that haunts me. What if the greatest enemy I face is not fear, not laziness, not even doubt, but the lies I whisper to myself so quietly that they sound like truth? I used to believe my mind was a loyal narrator. I believed the emotions I felt were reliable, that the stories I told myself were honest, that motivation was supposed to strike like lightning before I moved. But Nietzsche once wrote that most people prefer comforting illusions over uncomfortable truths. And I realized I was one of them. There's a subtle violence in these illusions, the lie that says wait until you feel ready, while your life passes quietly like fog behind a window. The lie that says your past has already chosen your future, as if identity were a prison you never applied for. The lie that says you need motivation before action, while dopamine whispers that distraction is safer than transformation. I didn't realize how deeply these illusions controlled my attention, my focus, my energy. They shaped the chemistry of my days. They made procrastination feel rational. They made learning feel impossible. And the worst part? They made me believe I was choosing them freely. Nietzsche pushed me into the fire, insisting that self-deception is the quiet origin of suffering. William James extended a hand, reminding me that action, even clumsy, even small, rewires the mind faster than inspiration ever could. Together they exposed the cost of comfort, the shrinking of my own life. And so this video is a confession, not of moral guilt, but of psychological blindness. I want to show you what these three lies do to a human life when left unchallenged. I want to reveal how they distort attention, drain motivation, hijack dopamine, and erase focus. Because if you can see them, you can step outside them. And when you step outside, the world stops shrinking. But let me warn you, truth has weight. These next moments may sting, and that sting is the doorway. If any part of this already touches the quieter places inside you, the places where you wrestle with focus, motivation, or the long shadows of your own history, stay close. Subscribe if you want to walk this path with me, where philosophy becomes something you can feel in your bones. And if a sentence resonated, let me know in the comments by simply writing, "I understand." We're learning in real time, together. I used to build my life around the fantasy that readiness would arrive like a sunrise, warm, clear, unmistakable. I thought motivation would expand inside me, pressurizing my chest until I couldn't help but act. But days blurred into weeks, then months, and all I felt was a soft, dull hesitation. I didn't understand then that waiting for the perfect emotional state was itself an emotional state, one engineered by fear, pretending to be patience. I would craft elaborate plans, new routines, new systems, new habits. I'd buy notebooks, apps, courses, vitamins, anything that looked like transformation, but required nothing from me yet. It felt responsible, intelligent even, to prepare the ground before daring to step forward. But Nietzsche warned that this is the self protecting itself against its own growth. "You are not yet ready" becomes a lullaby for the timid part of the spirit, the part terrified of what action might reveal. In my quieter moments, James contradicted that softness. He didn't insult me or shame me. He simply pointed to the truth that readiness is the last stage, not the first. "Act as if," he whispered, and I felt something shift. Not confidence, but curiosity. What if readiness is not a gatekeeper but a consequence? What if action is the thing that produces the emotional state I've been waiting for? I realized that dopamine had trained me to crave frictionless beginnings. The brain loves the idea of starting, the novelty, the fantasy of possibility. But real beginnings are sharp, awkward, and graceless. They bleed. They expose our unpracticed parts. And because they feel wrong at first, the brain interprets them as evidence that today isn't the day. Yet something remarkable happened when I acted before feeling ready. A tiny pulse of strength. barely noticeable at first, then unmistakable. The moment I stepped into discomfort, the fog lifted. The world felt tangible again. Action shifted my chemistry faster than thinking ever could. I learned that readiness is a myth we tell ourselves to avoid the embarrassment of beginning. Truth is more brutal and more liberating. We feel ready only after we move. There were years when I felt as if my past sat on my chest like a massive stone. Every failure, every abandoned goal, every moment of confusion playing like a documentary narrated by my own inner critic. I believed I was the sum of old habits, old mistakes, old versions of myself that still clung to me like shadows refusing to fall behind. Growing up, people praised consistency as a virtue. Consistency of personality, of identity, of preferences. To change was to betray the story others told about you. But Nietzsche shattered that illusion with a single idea. The self is not a fixed object, but a battlefield of forces competing to become you. The past isn't a prison. It's a graveyard you keep resurrecting out of habit. James approached the question differently. He didn't ask me to overcome the past. He asked me to outgrow it through habit. He taught me that identity is sculpted by repeated action, not by memory, not by trauma, not by judgment, by action. The person I repeatedly am becomes the person I believe myself to be. And identity, that sacred word we defend so intensely, is simply the echo of our behavior. But the lie persists because the past is familiar. There's a strange comfort in predicting our own limitations. It saves us from the terror of possibility. It keeps dopamine stable, predictable, unchallenged. The brain clings to the past because the past doesn't require adaptation. The future does. What broke me free wasn't inspiration but exhaustion. The realization that reliving old stories felt like self-betrayal. I wanted a life that didn't drag behind me like a chain. So I started taking actions misaligned with my old identity. Small acts of rebellion, micro-movements. A new habit here, an uncomfortable choice there. Slowly, the past loosened its grip. The truth is brutal. Your past only defines you if you continue performing it. For years, I lived as if motivation were a divine visitation. If I lacked intensity, I waited. If I felt uninspired, I waited. If I wasn't in the zone, I rescheduled everything. I thought I was respecting my psychology. In reality, I was worshiping a chemical fluctuation. Motivation is not the architect of action. It is the consequence of direction. The brain generates dopamine not as a reward for dreaming, but as a response to progress. But progress requires friction, and friction is what I avoided most. The modern world makes it easy. Infinite stimulation, infinite novelty, infinite distractions that give the illusion of productivity while draining the capacity for effort. Nietzsche spoke to the part of me that craved intensity, the part that wanted to burn through the world. He insisted that motivation is a byproduct of struggle, not a prerequisite. The will to power awakens only when challenged. The lion is not inspired before the hunt. The hunt awakens the lion. James tempered the flame. He explained that motivation grows through habit. If you take a single step, the mind registers it as evidence that you are capable. If you take another, the story reinforces itself. Motivation is self-generated through continuity. This lie collapses the moment you test it. When I acted without motivation, something strange happened. Motivation appeared afterward. It was like discovering a secret door in the house of my own mind. The cycle reversed. I didn't wait for desire. Desire followed discipline. The truth is simple and hard. Motivation is not the spark. It is the smoke. Inside me, Nietzsche and James became two gravitational forces, shaping the same existential landscape. Nietzsche demanded intensity, a confrontation with the self, an embrace of struggle as the forge of becoming. James demanded practicality, tiny, consistent movements that accumulate into transformation. Their tension became my internal war. Nietzsche pushes me into the abyss. James hands me the rope to climb out. This collision reshaped my understanding of effort. Nietzsche revealed the raw, primal energy beneath habit, the deep instinct to expand, transcend, overcome. James revealed the mechanics, how to structure behavior so the instinct has somewhere to go. Together, they formed the truth I resisted most. Transformation requires both fire and structure. The three lies still whisper in my ear. They always will. But now I recognize their tone, soft, rational, seductive. Their goal is not to destroy me, but to return me to inertia. The war is not loud. It's quiet, daily, chemical, psychological. But now I choose truth over comfort. And truth, once seen, refuses to be forgotten. Topic 5 complete. If any part of this journey met you in a place you've been quietly wrestling, I'm grateful. These ideas transformed me slowly, painfully, beautifully. And if you want to keep walking this path of philosophy, psychology, discipline, and self-overcoming, subscribe and stay close. And if you're carrying one of these lies or breaking free from one, let me know in the comments. Not for the algorithm, but so I know I'm not walking alone. We rise together, one honest step at a time.